Bonjour and welcome to French Action. If you are preparing for DELF A2, this video is for you. We'll be looking at the monologue suivi, which is the second part of the oral section. Vous êtes prêts? C'est parti! So the monologue suivi comes just after your warm-up section, which is basically several questions that the examiner is going to ask you. After that, you will have a monologue suivi. But what is a monologue and what is a monologue suivi? Unlike a dialogue where you have a conversation with somebody, you're going to be talking and that's it. So the talking is basically a presentation. Now, why do we say suivi? It's because the examiner is going to listen to you, and because your presentation is going to be so well constructed that he or she will know when it's the end, so that he or she doesn't have to interrupt you. So that is very important, to have a presentation which is well structured. And this is going to last about 2 minutes, and this will be on a familiar topic. Some preparation will be given, but please remember that the time, which is 10 minutes, is going to include section 3. So what you'll have to do is to take notes, because this exercise is not a reading exercise. So we don't want to see you reading your whole presentation. Self-correction is allowed. So if you realize that you've made a mistake, correct yourself straight away, and that will be fine. So you were asked to draw 2 papers and to choose one. So this is the one you got. Mer ou montagne? Où préférez-vous aller en vacances? À la mer ou à la montagne? Pourquoi? Racontez vos dernières vacances dans l'un des 2 endroits. So when you read this, you have to think straight away about what they're asking you to do. Keyword préféré. Another keyword is vacances, which is holiday. They are not asking you, is it the sea or the mountain you prefer? But when you go on holiday, which place do you prefer? Okay, so that is very, very specific. And of course, you have to say why. Pourquoi is why. So that is your first part. And the second part is racontez vos dernières vacances dans l'un des 2 endroits. So when you have decided on the place you prefer, then you have to talk about your last holiday in that place. So now you're thinking of the structure of your presentation. You know that all presentations need to have an introduction, and the introduction is there to tell the examiner what you're going to talk about. And that is very important for the examiner, because there are so many different papers that the examiner cannot remember all of them. Okay, so when you say what you're going to say, then it's simpler for the examiner. So that is your introduction, and then of course you're going to develop your ideas. Okay, you may use connectors as well, and in your development you have to think straight away about the tenses which are going to be used. So what do you prefer? So that part will be in the present tense, but when they talk to you about, or when they ask you to talk about your last holiday, you have to remember that it's no longer the present tense, but the past tense, okay? For A2, they ask you to know your passé composé with to be and to have, but not necessarily with the imperfect tense. However, il y avait, c'était, you are expected to know that. So to be and to have in the imperfect is expected for A2. And then you have to think about the vocabulary that you're going to be using, because when we're talking about the beach, the sea, is it coconut, or is it, there will be a specific vocabulary which will be very different from the vocabulary for the mountains. So even if you know the mountains but you can't remember the vocabulary, then just say the other one. The examiner is, for the examiner, whichever place you prefer is not very important. So you need to think about the vocabulary, which one you're stronger at, and if you're stronger with the vocabulary on the beach, then go for the beach, okay? And then you have to conclude, and that is very important, because that's at that point that the examiner will know that you have finished. Very often, I have candidates in front of me, they talk, and suddenly they stop. And we have to ask them, have you finished? And they say yes. But I didn't hear anything about the conclusion. So you have to be very, very careful with that. Okay, so I've been given some paper. So I'm going to use that paper to write down my notes. So the first thing I'm going to do is to write down the title of this presentation, which is Mer ou Montagne. Okay, so that's what I'm going to talk about. So the first thing I'm going to do is to say introduction. What am I going to put in the introduction? Oh, I have to remember to say I'm going to talk about. So let's put it, je vais parler de, and so on. Basically, I'm going to say what I'm going to be talking about, all right? And then I'm going to start talking about my main ideas. I have gathered 3 ideas, so let's talk about the first one. So I have a little problem with this question, because I know the sea, but I don't know the mountain. I've never been to the mountain, haven't been to France. So what am I going to do? So this is what I'm going to say. All right, that to say that it's that I prefer one over the other is going to be difficult, because I've never been to the mountain, even though in Jamaica we have blue mountains. But guess what? I've never been there. But to make it very nice, I'm going to say, but I would love to go to the mountain in France. Because we can't ski here, so maybe I want to ski in France. Maybe something that I could put. I'll see if I'll put it. My second idea is to say that, okay, since I've never been to the mountains, I'm going to prefer the sea, because I love sea activities. And also, I collect some shells. So I'm going to talk about my shell collections. So this is my second idea. So my third idea is basically the second part of the question. Do you remember they asked me to talk about my last holiday? So I have to talk about the sea, because that's what I chose. So I'm going to talk about Negril. I go to Negril regularly, so okay, a week. Maybe you rented an Airbnb and it happened to be on the beach. Maybe I can talk about that, even though it's not true, but And then for the first time, I scuba dived, because it was a birthday present. And my mom didn't come because, well, when I say didn't come, she came to Negril with us, but she didn't dive with us, because she was afraid of water and she doesn't like fish. Okay, I could put something like that. And I'm going to say that it was really nice, and I saw beautiful fish. Okay, I'm going to put that. And then I'm going to say that mom didn't cook because she was very tired. So we ate out, and I ate poulet jerk chicken, and seafood. And as a conclusion, I'm going to say that it was a great holiday. And that's it. J'ai choisi le sujet numéro 4, mer ou montagne. D'abord, je vais vous parler de ma préférence entre la mer et la montagne. Ensuite, je vais finir avec mes dernières vacances dans l'un des endroits. Je ne suis jamais allée à la montagne, donc c'est difficile pour moi de préférer un endroit. Il y a les Blue Mountains dans mon pays, mais je ne les connais pas. Cependant, j'espère bien y aller un jour. J'aimerais bien faire du ski en France aussi. Je pense que c'est passionnant de skier sur la neige. Par contre, je connais bien la mer. J'adore aller sur la côte du Nord parce que c'est loin de Kingston. Et j'aime bien les activités nautiques. C'est relaxant. En plus, je fais la collection de coquillages. À chaque fois, je trouve de nouveaux coquillages car je vais à des plages différentes. La mer, c'est bien et je vais parler de mes dernières vacances à Negril avec mes parents pendant une semaine. Normalement, nous allons à l'hôtel, mais ils ont préféré louer un Airbnb à cause du prix. C'était agréable parce que, parce que la maison se trouvait sur la plage et pour la première fois, j'ai fait de la plongée sous-marine avec mon père. C'était mon cadeau d'anniversaire. C'était super. J'ai vu de merveilleux poissons. Ma mère ne voulait pas venir avec nous parce qu'elle avait peur de l'eau et des poissons. Elle était fatiguée, donc elle n'a pas cuisiné pendant le séjour. Nous avons mangé au restaurant du poulet jerk et beaucoup de fruits de mer. En conclusion, c'était de belles vacances à la mer en famille. So, let's get some feedback. I think it was about 2 minutes and probably a little bit more because I tried to speak slowly. So what I would advise you to do is to time yourself even on the day of the exam. You can time yourself during the preparation section and don't go over the 2 minutes. Don't go too much under the 2 minutes, otherwise for sure you will get some questions. I tried some vocabulary like activité nautique, but if you didn't know the word for nautique, for example, then you can say la mer, j'aime bien la mer, or instead of j'aime bien les activités nautiques, something like that. Coquillage, I use the word coquillage just to show the examiner that I know something about the sea, the beach. It's always good because that will help with the grade for your vocabulary. And as I said before, you're not expected to use the imperfect tense, but if you can use the imperfect tense, please do. Otherwise, don't panic about that because as long as you know il y avait and c'était, you're fine. Here are a few tips from me. So remember, 10 minutes for 2 activities is not that long. But what I would say, try to spend some time on your presentation, especially with the timing. Time yourself. And write down vocabulary which you think that you will need for your presentation in such a way that you can see it easily. Don't write very small and you can't see anything, because you have to remember that it's not a reading exercise but a speaking exercise. And also write down what you can say. Okay, I said activité nautique because I know activité nautique, but that could be replaced with j'aime bien nager or any vocabulary you are confident with. There's no point starting with vocabulary you're not sure of, and then you get the wrong words. I would say that to manage this part, you need to practice. Practice is the key. Time yourself, and I'm sure you'll get it right. So thanks for watching, and please like the video, share it, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. Au revoir!